On a stormy night in 1856, lightning cracked across the sky as a child named Nikola Tesla was born. Legend says the midwife cried that he would be a child of the storm, and his mother calmly replied, "No, of the light." Tesla grew up in a tiny village in what is now Croatia, surrounded by fields, forests, and superstition. His mother, though never formally schooled, built clever household tools and mechanical devices from scraps. His father was a stern Serbian Orthodox priest who wanted Nikola to follow him into the church. But Nikola was obsessed with water wheels, gears, and the invisible forces powering the world. As a child, he suffered strange flashes of light, sudden visions that flooded his mind with images. Objects appeared in front of him so vividly that he sometimes could not tell imagination from reality. Later, he would use these visions to design entire machines in his head, turning a curse into his greatest strength. At 17, he nearly died from cholera, and his father finally promised to send him to engineering school if he recovered. In school, he encountered electricity, a mysterious new force that seemed to obey its own invisible laws. He devoured textbooks, studied late into the night, and impressed professors with his astonishing memory. But he also developed a dangerous passion for gambling, losing his tuition money in card games before finally quitting in shame. One day, while walking in a park at sunset, he suddenly envisioned a rotating magnetic field that would make AC motors possible. Despite his brilliance, debts and illness cut his formal studies short, and he left school without a degree. He worked as a draftsman and electrician, moving between cities, always chasing the resources to build his ideas. In Budapest, he suffered a nervous breakdown, overwhelmed by constant ideas and the pressures of survival. Then, while reciting poetry to a friend, he suddenly drew a diagram in the dirt that solved the AC motor in one flash of insight. He knew Europe could not yet support his enormous ambitions, so he set his sights on America, the land of industry. In 1884, he arrived in New York with a few coins, some calculations in his pocket, and a letter recommending him to Thomas Edison. Edison hired him on the spot, impressed by his reputation, but unaware that this quiet newcomer would challenge his life's work. Tesla worked tirelessly redesigning DC generators, improving Edison's system so much that colleagues joked he performed miracles. According to Tesla, Edison promised a lavish bonus for the improvements, then laughed and said he did not understand American jokes. Feeling cheated and disillusioned, Tesla walked out of Edison's company and into an uncertain future. For a time, he dug ditches for a living, shoveling earth while brilliant designs turned restlessly in his mind. Eventually, investors recognized his talent and backed his own laboratory, where he finally built the AC motor he had seen in his visions. Industrialist George Westinghouse bought Tesla's AC patents, setting the stage for a showdown with Edison's DC empire. The War of Currents began, with Edison launching a ruthless campaign to paint AC power as deadly and uncontrollable. Edison's agents staged dramatic public electrical executions of animals, horrifying crowds to turn them against Tesla's system. Tesla refused to answer spectacle with spectacle, instead calmly giving lectures explaining why AC was safer and more efficient. The turning point came when Westinghouse and Tesla won the contract to power the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. When the lights switched on, the fairgrounds glowed like a new city of light, proving AC's potential to the entire world. Soon after, Tesla's AC system was chosen to harness the power of Niagara Falls, one of the greatest engineering challenges of the age. When the plant came online, AC power flowed from the roaring falls to distant cities, finally ending the War of Currents. To save Westinghouse's company during a financial crisis, Tesla famously tore up his valuable royalty contract, sacrificing millions. The decision preserved AC power, but left Tesla without the fortune his inventions deserved. In public demonstrations, he became a kind of science magician, calmly letting millions of volts pass over his body. One famous photograph shows him sitting casually in a chair, reading, while vast bolts explode around him in the lab. He broadcast and received radio waves before Marconi, demonstrating wireless communication with tuned circuits. In Madison Square Garden, he drove a small boat by radio, steering it with unseen signals that stunned onlookers. To a skeptical world, he explained that invisible waves filled the air, carrying energy and information from place to place. He imagined a global wireless network that could transmit messages, news, and even pictures to handheld devices. In one interview, he described a pocket-sized instrument connecting all people, an eerie prediction of smartphones decades later. Seeking space to experiment, Tesla moved to Colorado Springs, where lightning storms echoed his own ambitions. There he built an enormous coil, so powerful it reportedly produced bolts of artificial lightning over 100 feet long. Neighbors claimed that when he ran the machine, light bulbs glowed wirelessly in the ground outside his lab. Tesla now thought in planetary scale, believing the entire Earth could resonate with carefully tuned electrical vibrations. Armed with new data and daring ideas, he returned to New York ready to build something unprecedented. He approached the most powerful financier of his time, J.P. Morgan, to fund a worldwide wireless system. Morgan agreed to back a tower for wireless communication, unaware that Tesla hoped to give away energy itself. On Long Island, the skeletal frame of Wardenclyffe Tower began to rise above the trees like a strange wooden mushroom. Beneath it, Tesla built a laboratory filled with massive transformers and hidden tunnels meant to channel the Earth's energy. In private, he spoke of a future where anyone could tap into the planet's power without wires or bills. When Morgan realized there would be no way to meter this energy, he began to quietly pull back his support. Investors followed his lead, and slowly the flow of money that powered Tesla's dreams came to a stop. The tower stood unfinished, a silent skeleton against the horizon, while debts piled up and creditors circled. Banks seized the property, equipment was sold off, and eventually the tower itself was demolished for scrap. The press began to treat Tesla less like a genius and more like an eccentric whose grand visions had failed. Yet he kept filling notebooks with ideas for bladeless turbines, vertical takeoff aircraft, and particle beam weapons. Newspapers loved his talk of a so-called death ray, a focused beam he claimed could shoot down fleets of aircraft. Tesla argued that such a weapon, placed on national borders, would make war unthinkably costly and thus preserve peace. By now, he drifted between New York hotels, paying with what little money he had and often slipping behind on bills. He developed strict routines and odd habits, insisting on walking a precise number of blocks and cleaning obsessively. His closest companions became the pigeons in Bryant Park, especially one pure white bird he adored. He once confessed that he loved this pigeon as a man loves a woman, and that as long as she lived, his life had meaning. When the bird died, he said a dazzling light filled his room, and he knew his life's work was finished. He still sent letters to governments describing new weapons, energy systems, and communication schemes, but few took him seriously. In an age racing toward war, his warnings and offers of help often fell into the margins of history. Eventually, he settled into room 3327 at the New Yorker Hotel, where he lived alone with his thoughts and his pigeons. Each day, he walked to the park, fed the birds, then returned to his room to scribble new equations and dreams. On January 7, 1943, staff found him dead in his room, a "Do Not Disturb" sign still hanging on the door. He left behind a few suitcases of clothes, a trunk of papers, and unpaid bills that far outweighed his assets. Almost immediately, agents from the United States government arrived to examine and collect his papers. Boxes of notebooks, diagrams, and devices were seized and taken away for analysis by government scientists. Some material was eventually returned to his family, but other parts remained classified or mysteriously missing for decades. This secrecy helped fuel rumors that Tesla had discovered terrifying weapons or impossible technologies the world was not ready for. For years, he was overshadowed by more commercially savvy figures, his contributions buried under other men's names. Only later did historians and engineers rediscover just how much of the modern world rested on his ideas. Today, almost every home and city on Earth runs on AC power, the very system he championed against all odds. The motors and fans, tools, elevators, and kiteless machines quietly spin thanks to his induction motor design. Radio, once credited solely to others, now bears his name in patents and court decisions recognizing his early work. His remote control boat hinted at robotics and automation that now guide drones, rovers, and factory lines. The wireless world of Wi-Fi, cellular networks, and satellite links echoes his vision of signals carrying information everywhere. His dream of clean, renewable energy finds new life in the solar panels and wind farms now spreading across the planet. Even the electric cars gliding silently down highways carry his name, a belated nod to the man who electrified the world. For many, he has become a cult figure, the archetype of the misunderstood genius exploited by ruthless businessmen. For scientists and engineers, he is a reminder that the universe sometimes advances through those who think far beyond the obvious. Even his quirks, from his precise routines to his love of pigeons, add to the aura of mystery that keeps people talking. But behind the legend is a more human story of sacrifice, loneliness, and the heavy cost of living decades ahead of your time. Tesla's tragedy is not that he was wrong, but that he was so right in ways the world was not yet ready to support. He could see invisible fields, moving waves, and global networks long before engineers had the tools to measure them. In a sense, he spent his life living mentally in the future while his body remained trapped in a harsher present. He never married and had no children, claiming that devotion to science left no room for romantic love. He tasted fame briefly, then watched it fade as new trends and louder personalities took the spotlight. Yet ideas can grant a different kind of immortality, one that unfolds silently in wires, motors, and signals. Countless inventors, entrepreneurs, and dreamers now cite him as inspiration to challenge what seems impossible. Some even talk of rebuilding Wardenclyffe or its spiritual successor to finish the experiment he began. People still ask what might have happened if he had kept his royalties or if Morgan had believed in free energy. His failures warn us that brilliant ideas alone are not enough. They need timing, allies, and sustainable support. His life challenges us to hold on to big visions, even when the crowd cannot yet see their value. From the stormy night of his birth to the lightning in his lab, light followed Tesla's story like a signature. He turned electric dreams into blueprints and blueprints into the infrastructure that powers billions of lives. Most people using lights, phones, and motors have never heard his full story, yet his fingerprint is on every switch. Between the myths of death rays and secret files lies a real man, brilliant, fragile, and endlessly curious. He refused to shrink his ideas to fit what investors wanted, even when it cost him everything. That stubborn purity is both what doomed him and what makes his story unforgettable. Every time a motor hums, a wireless signal jumps, or a city lights up, a faint echo of Tesla's lab still resounds. From a lonely hotel room he rose, after death, into textbooks, documentaries, and the public imagination. The age of the internet loves underdog geniuses, and Tesla has become one of its favorite heroes. His name now stands for bold innovation, radical thinking, and the courage to challenge established power. At the same time, his life warns us about what happens when society fails to support its most daring minds. Did we do right by Nikola Tesla, or did we squander one of the greatest minds of any century? We cannot change his fate, but we live every day inside a world that his inventions made possible. Perhaps the best way to honor him is to keep pushing boundaries, asking impossible questions, and dreaming bigger than what seems safe. From child of the storm to master of light, Tesla's journey shows how chaos can be shaped into creation. He was brilliant, difficult, compassionate, and flawed, as human as any of us, and yet operating on a different frequency. Decades before it arrived, he saw a tomorrow of glowing cities and wireless connections that we now take for granted. We are living inside the world he imagined, an electric age pulsing with currents he helped unleash. His story invites us to look at every flickering screen and humming motor with a little more wonder. This was Nikola Tesla, a lonely man in a borrowed room who nonetheless helped light up the entire planet.